and handing over now to William, who is going to be convening the next panel on the very difficult topic of reintegration following SARV. William, you need to turn off your mute.
Yes, thank you, Professor Miranda. And thank you all for coming along and making yourself available for this conference on reintegration following sorcery accusation-related violence. So,
I know that they are having problems with the internet in Moresby today. We seem to have lost William. Have we got?
William is our moderator.
Benedict, whereabouts are you?
D1 Wood Campus, Port Moresby.
Excellent. Well, Benedict, it seems like William has lost connection for the moment. So I was wondering, you're the first one on our panel to speak. Could you tell us a little bit about the reintegration that you managed and your role in it?
Thank you, Caroline. Is that Caroline?
No, it's Miranda, but that's okay. But can you get close to the microphone? And then take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Miranda. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Benedict Soko Barakas. I am from the Eastern Highlands province of Papua New Guinea. And, just a little bit about myself. I am a teacher by profession, and I taught for some years. Then I left and worked with an NGO as one of the project coordinators. And most recently, I was attached to PNG Migrations as a refugee case manager on Manus Island. And in towards the end of 2019, when the project closed down on the island, or when the center closed down, I relocated myself into the village, and I am doing some advocacy work on the human rights issues in my community. So that's a little bit about myself. Well, my tribe is one of the largest tribe in my district, the district that I come from, that is Lufa in the Eastern Highlands province. And sorcery-related problem, or my tribe is also a victim of the sorcery accusation-related violence for the past 2 decades. I mean, the accusation and all sorcery-related accusation or sorcery accusation-related violence. It's not, I wouldn't say violence, but blaming each other, and all that thing has been going on in the village for the last 20 years or more than 20 years. But the accusation and the violence and torturing more or less happened in the last 5 or 10 years. So a good number of houses got destroyed, and people got torturing, and the killings was some of the things that happened in my community. And more than 100 people, including men, women, and children, got displaced from the village. They were forced out of the village, especially those who were accused of practicing sorcery. The accused was chased out of the village. They were displaced from the village, and they took refuge in other parts of the province, and even in other parts of the country. So that my work with the refugees on Manus Island, I come to realize that the causes or these refugees on Manus Island were similar. They were internationally displaced people, but I had locally displaced people. My own clan and my own people, my own tribe were displaced. Some of them were displaced, and they were also having problems returning back to their place. So that prompted me to do some awareness, to carry out some awareness in my community. And it started in 2018 until for the 2 years, 2018 and 2019, I did carry out some awareness program in the village. And the awareness programs, I would say educational awareness, educating the people about the causes of death. Because all the deaths, according to the people in the village, all the deaths are linked to sorcery. They can be, the death can be caused by, that can be a result of cancer or malaria or other diseases, but to the people in the village, it's all related to, it's linked to sorcery. So the awareness programs were, the meetings were carried out, 4 meetings so far from 2018 to 2019. In those meetings, I educated my people about the causes of death, major causes of death, and also why it is not right to torture other people, human rights issues, and also I touched on some development issues like when these things are happening in the village, it disadvantages the small kids to attend school because of fear of being attacked. And human development and all these things were affected. So awareness, educational awareness for 4 educational awareness meetings were conducted. But my people were, because the whole community was against the accused people, so they couldn't listen to me. They couldn't listen to me, so they were they said this person must be, he was trying to protect the sorcerers. He was trying to protect the sorcerers. So my own family members, they were divided, so they couldn't listen to me, but I continued until the 4th meeting. After the 4th meeting, we couldn't come up with a resolution on what to do next. But after the 4th meeting, I've spent a lot of money on those meetings, so the people took ownership. The local church in the village took ownership and then organized a reconciliation program. Reconciliation program was conducted in the village. And the reconciliation program commenced. It went on for 1 week. It commenced on 21st of December 2019 and went on until 29th of December. On the 21st, it was on a Saturday because the village is a predominantly Seventh-day Adventist community. The people who were in the village, the people reconcile amongst themselves, between the clans and the families, they reconcile. And then on the 26th, we got the victims, the accused and displaced people and the families. They came, and then we did a reconciliation program. On the 28th, we had a bonfire, and then all the weapons, drugs, and other things were burned. And on the 29th, the reconciliation program ended. But during the 1 week, there was spiritual programs, and then we had an evangelist who was facilitating the spiritual program, part of the program. Then I thought it was a success because some of the success stories from what happened was, despite going against me, because the whole community, as I said, the whole community were against me advocating or me talking on behalf of the accused. So they were against me, but we forced the reconciliation program to take place. And then from that reconciliation program, we were able to establish an organization. An organization, I would say, a community-based organization to continue that. And then we had the displaced people. They returned back to the community, and now some of them have returned back to the community and have built their houses, and they are now in the village. So the success stories, that reconciliation program took place. Then the reintegration of the displaced people, they came back to the village, and the establishment of a community-based organization. Some challenges that from our lessons learned is that being a local from the village, advocating on behalf of the accused sorcerers or the accused people was advantageous for me. Was an advantage for me because I knew what was happening. I knew who were the accused people and why they have been accused and all that. So I was able to maneuver around and then get the perpetrators and the accused and the perpetrators to come to a round table and do the reconciliation program. And also being an educated person from that area, that was an advantage for me too. And one thing that also helped me in the reconciliation program of bringing the people back to the village was my father's standing. I never knew that my father was always.
Benedict, you will have to round it up, and then we can give the space to others. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Finish it off.
Okay. Yes. And challenges, funding constraints. Funding is the most important. It's one of the impediments or challenges that I think was the problem, because funding and geographical location of the village, it's isolated from the road. So if there was the accused or if they tortured somebody, there was no way he or she could be rushed to the hospital to seek medical attention or medical assistance. And also you can't refer the perpetrators to the police because it's right in the jungle. Another problem or another challenge is that the reintegration part of it, the people who are resettling back to the village, the startup bit, they've lost everything. They had no money. Nobody was going to support them. So they virtually or practically, they had nothing. So startup bit was a problem for them. I was unable to give them because they came back to me and asked me for some assistance, but I was only doing as an individual. So I had no money to support them to reestablish themselves. And lack of established social support system in the area, or I think in Papua New Guinea. We can't refer if they are accused and been tortured, we can't refer them to, if they can go back to their village. There's no social support system in place in our country, or I think in our country, so that we can link them to the social support system in place, or and also if I think I'm getting mixed up here because I think I'm running out of time or something. So, but yeah, those are the challenges that I think. Thank you, William.
Thank you, Benedict Soko. Benedict Soko is one of those human rights defenders. So I hope he introduced himself, because I was put off because my power went off. So thank you, Benedict. I was also witnessing some of his meetings that he conducted, and also I was there for the reconciliation, and it was really powerful. And I hope Benedict had a lot of things to share, but time doesn't allow. So they can also add some questions on the chat box, and then we can come to you later. So let's move on to our next panelist on the list, Mr. Kamung Tai. I hope Kamung Tai is with the Voice for Change. Yes, now I can see you, Mr. Tai. You look very bright today. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lord, for the Zoom conference, and thank you for the organizing committee for allowing me to talk on the integration program in my area. Firstly, I will introduce myself. I am a teacher by profession, and I resigned from teaching service, and then I joined Voice for Change in human rights defender and community activist. And I was involved with Voice for Change for some years. And then we were talking about the integration. Okay, I come from one community association. We have joined with Voice for Change, and then we formed an association which we made some bylaws from our community to work with the youths and community as whole. Okay, we were in that community, and then there was an incident happened where there was a family been accused of sorcery, and there were 12 families were affected, and they accused them, and during a night, the accusers came down and burned their house, take the father into captives, and held him for 3 days, and hostage for 3 days and 3 nights. And then we brought the police in, and then brought the father back. And then I was just on time in there where I went in for them to come back. And from there, I went in and then got them in and then brought them down to where our association was. And then we held them there for some time, and then we initiated a program with Voice for Change. And then we find some ways to bring them back to their community. But then to do a reintegration is a hard process. We tried our best. We talked with the accusers. We talked with the accused, and then we see that there were some motives behind the accusers, and they accused them of sorcery, and they told them that you are practicing sorcery in our community. But then later on, we found out that the sorcery accusation was raised with different motives, where they have no evidence in accusing them. So we do the reintegration and then brought them back. Now the family is back to the community, and we brought them back to the community, but we did our part in bringing them back, and then to have them settled in their own communities and without fears. They will stay without fears. There's no support in justice not coming in. The followers did not come in to enforce, to reinforce this to set them conditions for the accused to be safe in their own communities. So that's why we see that once we do reintegration, that means that the family are back home, but the police force is not at the back of us. There is no way that we can make them feel more comfortably at their own home. So one thing is I'm privileged that I am bringing this problem to we have all this problem. There are a lot of people going through this problem. So in my experience, I would say that to bring the accused family back to their own place is a bit hard for an individual to do, because we in our society, we believe in rumors, we believe in assumptions. Because once a person says that that particular person is a sorcery, that a particular word is spreading through their minds, and the whole community are saying that that particular person is practicing sorcery in our society. So to make the our reintegration strong, we need a team of people to stay together with the police at the back of us to make the accusers to go back and then live peacefully in their own community and their place. So now, one problem that we are facing now after this reintegration is they went back to the place, but they did not get or did not own their own properties which they left, because the accusers are still going into their gardens and taking part of their lands. And that's why we are talking, we are talking to the police, and we are making necessary arrangement that the police will come and maybe issue the order so that the accusers will leave the boundaries where they accused live and cultivate the gardens and their properties. So now, with the help of Voice for Change and with the defenders, human rights defenders from our community, we are trying our best to get the police, write to them, talk to them to come back, and then reinforce what we have done on the ground to make the accusers feel happy and stay and to stay safe in their own community. Regarding back to our association, Dambex Community Association, we have a bylaw that we have made in law saying that accusing somebody saying that you are sorcery or whatever, this law is, we put a law that if a person is accusing a person saying it's a sorcery, the community will back that particular accused and then will find a way out for him or her to get the help from the sources like Voice for Change is backing us up, and the police department is there, will get help from there to make sure that to accuse a person without no evidence. We have strong belief that we will try our best to make sure that social accusation in our community will be minimized, and maybe after some years will be finished altogether. And we don't want people to call other people witchcraft or sorcery or whatever. So in the reintegration program is once again, I would say that it needs a group, it needs support to bring the accused family back, because in our society we believe in rumors and assumption. So once a little word or a little sentence goes to the public ears, they spread this news so that the accused becomes more or less like a person with no backups. So we are trying our very best to stay. So my recommendation now is if the government, if the police department can fully back up the reintegration program to enforce the law onto the accusers, so that accusers will not touch the accused anymore when they go back to their own place to survive and live together as a family. I think that's all, and thank you for listening, and may God bless.
Thank you.
Sorry, Miranda, adding on to what Thai has said. Thai comes from the Dambex community, where one of the 3 communities that we worked over 2 years to help them develop the community bylaw. And I think when the team was here, we looked at it that the sorcery accusations is lessened a bit. So this community, Thai's community, has actually ousted the community that the family that were accused of sorcerers, and they were the community that they took care of them until we integrated back them to the community. So I think in Thai's community, where the Dambex community, one of the 3 communities that we help them to do the bylaws, the second, I think one of the second or third law is say no to sorcery accusations. So I think this community is, I think they don't experience any of that. But with that, we can see that such a community development, community bylaws, it needs strong leaders to drive this forward. It's strong leaders as well as Thai men and the police and other people that they need. Those people who are internally displaced, they need a lot of support with psychosocial support, as food, accommodation, safety, and all this. So I think what Thai has put out, he was very supportive in us as one of the active women human rights defender to be able to take the lead in this to try to integrate a family back into the community. But as we said, that there's still some part of the land and some of the gardens, like all this, are taken over by the Accusations, and they haven't given back. And we did it as much as we can, but in this case, we need the police to come in and enforce the conditions they set. The conditions that they said was that whatever, when the family come back, you have to move out of the land, their land. But these conditions, we need them to reinforce them. So as what Ty mentioned, that the underlying issue was that this family that was chased out of the community, where they had a big piece of land, and the other family who accused them, they were looking for grabbing the land. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lily, for adding on to that presentation by Mr. Kamung. And it's true that I know that I've attended a workshop with Lily at Voice for Change about the bylaws and about the really positive role that they've been able to play in addressing the problems of sorcery accusations in Jiwaka. So really, I encourage any community that is that's interested in pursuing that to get in touch with Lily. But it looks like William again. Oh, you're back, William. Sorry, I took over and you're there. So handing back to you.
This PNG Power doesn't really like me to share this meeting. My apology. Yes, thank you, Mr. Tai and the team from the Voice for Change. So we'll move straight to people. Sarah from the Oxfam, so that I think she had a lot of experiences there. They have been looking after victims, survivors of sorcery. And I heard that they usually bring them along and then they also monitor them. So I think they have something to share along with that. So hopefully we will figure out the challenges, what they have learned, and then what that thing that they picked up that can be also helpful to other advocates who are dealing with survivors. So let's give this time to Sarah and listen to Sarah. Sarah.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I am with Oxfam, the Gender Justice Program with Oxfam. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that the fact that Oxfam is not directly implementing, working in the communities, but we provide support to our implementing partners. So I'd like to take this time to acknowledge these hard-working partner organizations that are currently on the ground doing so much in terms of GBV prevention, SARV prevention, and of course in the repatriation and reintegration of survivors. People like Voice for Change. Here I have Cafe Women's Association, Cafe Urban Settlers Women's Association, Cook Women for Peace, Highlands Women Human Rights Defenders Movement, Family for Change, Nanakundi Crisis Center, Kedu Safe House in Milne Bay, St. Anna Crisis Center in Wasara District, and of course the other individual human rights defenders across the country, especially in the Highlands region, that we have a lot of SARV cases coming from. So what I'll be talking about here is mostly based on their experiences. Oxfam facilitates the capacity building of these partners as well as funding. And that's how we support them, but they are really the ones to be acknowledged. Okay, so with that, also to DFED for being that support behind this reintegration program that we're doing and the GBV work that these partners are doing on the ground. So they do counseling, case mediation, paralegal support, and they also, some of them provide refuge accommodation. And the big one, which now I will be more emphasizing on, it's the repatriation and reintegration of the SARV survivors. So it's based again on the experience. So when it comes to reintegration, that's where Oxfam kind of also steps in to support the partner, like physically where they're on the ground with the partner where need be. If the partner is capable, then they can do this. Where they need our support, we are there. So maybe I'll just talk about some of the challenges from these partners, and while working with the partners around reintegration of the SARV survivors. Taking them out is one thing from the hostile area, but reintegrating them back into the community, and I would like to support Mr. Tai from Juwaka who shared his experience. It's the fear the survivors have of going back into the community. And that is something you and I don't have control over. Again, it comes back to if the survivor feels comfortable to go back or not. So that is one of the challenges. So that is why some survivors are not reintegrated quickly into a community until they get over that fear. And it is not easy to do that. They go through counseling, but then it is the systems that we have that are, really not that supportive to rehabilitate. They have to go through this trauma that they have gone through in order to accept the fact that they have to go back into a community to face their perpetrators. It's just not one perpetrator. It's a group, it's a community. So that's the challenge that these partners are facing in terms of reintegrating survivors back. The other one is the lack of participation and leadership from community leaders and some government agencies that we feel they should be part of this. So in some communities, in some districts, we've heard about, we have good policemen there, we have good village courts there, and we want to make sure we have a lot of these people in every districts and communities that our survivors come from. So that's this lack of leadership and participation from that area. The survivors who are reintegrated into the community within this reintegration program that Oxfam has is we give them a seed money or a startup money, because then their homes were probably destroyed. They've left their gardens. Now they have to restart a whole new life. So once we give them those money and having to go back and restart, reintegrated, whether into their own communities or somewhere else new, having that label still with them makes it very hard for them to, if they were to sell, say, bidonat or smoke or anything in the markets, they cannot make business out of that, because they'll be labeled as Mbuai Blongo Sanguma Meria, and Dislameria Mosem. So that idea for them to, am I still being heard? Sorry. Did I lose everyone?
Yes, it's all good.
Okay. So that stigma they still carry around with them. So these women also economically are not settling in and cannot sustain themselves in those communities that they have reintegrated to, or even the initial community they got repatriated out of. Negotiations with the community for reintegration is like another process my other colleagues have also shared already in this panel. It's not an easy thing. Having to get leaders and communities buy-in that this person, this woman was once or has been accused of sorcery in the community, and she's gone out and now she's trying to come back. So that negotiation bit also is not easy. I am talking generally here, but these partners that I have mentioned will give you more details as to what really actually happens there. The other challenge in reintegration of these survivors is also the monitoring of these survivors. It is not easy. So once they go in there, it's having a focal person there, or having a phone that you can call, or having to go there and see them, and sometimes you don't find them. They go in hiding. There's so many reasons as to that. So it is very hard to see if this particular survivor being reintegrated is still there. Is, you know, is the life normal again for him or her? So yeah, that's the loss of contact with the survivors that are being reintegrated. So that's in terms of the challenges. What we have learned, again, generally from all this is, I'll use the Enga experience where we have reintegrated two sub-survivors into Enga. What we have learned from those two experiences was the senior authority in the province taking ownership and being the front liners there. So we had the government support right there. We had the police, and when the integration was taken from Goroka into, the survivor was taken from Goroka all the way to Enga, we had a partner on the ground like Kuswa, Voice for Change. We had the police escorting the particular survivor into Enga. So when they went into Enga, we had on the receiving side, we had the government there, all the authorities, and these were not just junior officers, I would say. These are senior people within the government that were there on the other side receiving. So that had some kind of emphasis into the community or onto the leaders in the community that the government is right there, and protection orders were given, community development was there as well. It was a successful reintegration, I would say. So that's from our learning in those two integration programs or work that we did, activity we did in the Enga province for two of the SARV survivors. The other thing, again, I would say, re-emphasize on senior government officials to be part of this, or being in the loop in terms of working in the SARV space. Protection order, like I heard from the other colleagues, yes, that has proven to be one of those tools or that had that power to create that protection for these survivors and gave that fear to the other community not to, touch or to have anything to do with people that have been reintegrated. Relationship and effective communication strengthening between these stakeholders that we're talking about. It's the partner on the ground, our civil society organizations that are working on the ground, or the human rights defenders that are working on the ground, the police and the village court is one of those areas that I feel should be more strengthened in terms of relationship and effective communication in that area. The other one is...
Sorry, Sarah, you have to wind it up.
Yep, I got the last one.
Thank you.
Thanks, William. Communities also need more information, and I do support this communicating the law that needs to also go down to the communities. So they are aware of the law, and system strengthening, support to the village courts. The village courts are right there at the people, with the people in the community. So that court system, I feel, needs to be supported. Not I, but we, and the police, mainly in the districts. The police in the districts are right there with the community, where these survivors are being accused in the community. They're not accused in town, in Goroka town. They're accused in Asaro. They're accused in Hengenofi, and all these other outstations that work in the communities are there with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That's very beautiful. That's worth learning a lot from the experiences, the knowledge that you have learned and you are sharing with the group. It's really powerful, and it's also motivating some of us to look into some of the issues and then discuss it in avenues where we can. So thank you, and without further delay, we have somebody else for the 2 o'clock, so we'll move straight to Bomai. Bomai, I think you can now take the floor and then share what you have about reintegration. Is Bomai there?
Yeah, but Bomai, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Willem, and everyone. My name is Bomai Whitney. I am a PhD student at Queensland University of Technology, and my research project is titled Understanding Sorcery Accusation-Related Violence, the Experience of the Yuri people of the Simbu province of Papua New Guinea. And I am being supported by Australian Award Scholarship, Queensland University of Technology, University of Goroka, and a wonderful team of supervisors, Associate Professor Verena Thomas, Dr. Jackie Cowley, and Dr. Christina Spurgeon. So in this discussion, I will be presenting part of my research, which I tailored to suit the theme of reintegration and what the Yuri people are doing in a remote part of the Simbu province of Papua New Guinea. Now, I am a Yuri man myself, and my interest in my tribe is a lifelong interest, particularly to do with this research grew in 2013 when the 13 clans of the Yuri tribe united to step forward and to address and prevent tribal warfare and intra-clan warfare in the tribe. And what I also learned through my research is that there are social institutions and things that are there, and the Yuri clan came out, used it to create a peaceful community for themselves. And what I find interesting is they use the sub-clan and the family systems, which are pillars for social relationship and social networks based on shared history, language, land, marriage, and cultural ceremonies. And this is also extended to contemporary social spaces such as schools, churches, marketplace, community resource center, health centers, and other spaces that people get together to meet. And one of the things that hold them together is the Yuri people's ability to share and care for each other and the environment they live in. Now, what I also realize is that the idea of peace building has drawn different clans, and particularly men would be in the forefront of different forms of violence. And these are the men who come out and they use that space to create a social goal, to create peace, and they act in different ways to promote that goal. And since 2013, there has never been any tribal fights or intra-clan fights in the Yuri tribe. And what I also realized is that the Yuri people use culturally relevant ways of peace building, such as reconciliation, using traditional symbols, family networks, and other social networks. And that strengthened the unity. And within that, there is also this idea of restorative justice, where a peaceful community allows for different people who were victims or who were perpetrators before to come along, start conversations, and start that process to forgive one another and to be part of that peace building process. Now, once that is in order, now with reintegration, what comes out of the research is that we have the perpetrators of violence and we have the victims. Now, this is a challenge among the Yuri people. Mostly when we talk about reintegration, people find it easy to deal with the victims using the social network. Sometimes they use the village court and the police and other networks to protect and save them. But the perpetrators are a hard lot to deal with. Now, from the research, I realized that with peace building and for social justice to prevail in a Yuri community, there must be intervention programs that are aimed at reintegrating the victims as well as the perpetrators. And they may need spiritual or socioeconomic support. And also there may be unique intervention programs for the perpetrators as well as the victims. And the findings also suggest that people are already doing things in the community, but also there are challenges they have to deal with in terms of reintegration. And one of the participants said this, and I quote, "I looked after her until she got well. I asked her life was risky. If she stayed back and wanted to go back to a community, I felt sorry for her and slaughtered her own pig, cooked it and sold it at a village market and gave her money and asked her to take the money and go back to a village." Now, the other participant told a story, and when I asked him to represent his story using a photo, he took a picture of a hen guiding a chicks. And he said there was a point where 3 old women were being accused of sorcery and tortured. He intervened, took the 3 women to his house with the help of his wife and children. The 3 old women fully recovered, stayed with them, and each of them died at different times at old age.
1 minute to finish it off. Thank you.
And then the challenge of doing all this is that there are people who are coming forward to support, but there are others who are not coming forward to support in the reintegration process. And there was a case where a male whose mother was cut and killed. The brother was also cut. He was a small boy, but when he was about 22, he wanted to take revenge, but there are people who also think that he's the child of a sorcerer, and he still carries that burden, and he struggles to reintegrate into his own clan. And I think what comes out of the research is that there must be a effective and renewed effort to network, share resources, and people at the community level and at different levels of society in Papua New Guinea have to step forward to address all forms of violence, including SARV. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bomai. I think that was really wonderful. Your research has helped some of the values that you discovered that can be used also to address sorcery, accusation-related violence. So unfortunately, I think I was not really, I mean, this PNG Power doesn't really want me to facilitate this, I don't know. I was put off a couple of times and I couldn't really follow up all my the speakers' presentation, and I hope the other members have really got what they have shared with us today. So as we all know, I think reintegration is one of those very difficult tasks in addressing sorcery-related violence. And I also interviewed some of those participants, and they also sort of like find it very hard to get back to their villages, as some of you already identified. So it's true, as most of you identified, we need collective efforts from the government, from NGOs, from communities, and also we need strategies that, as you have identified, and this is something that is really that we need to look into as a team. So once again, I think we have another speaker online for the 2 o'clock presenter is there, and we are almost on time. So I think I would like to thank all my panelists, speakers for this reintegration, and also thank the participants who have been part of this presentation on reintegration. So thank you very much, and back to you, the MC for the conference.